मेरा हार्दिक नमस्कार। मैं राष्ट्रीय दृष्टि दिव्यांगजन सशक्तिकरण संस्थान देहरादून जो कि एक 75 सालों से सेवाएं दे रहा है, महानिदेशक हूँ। एंड आई कंग्रेचुलेट पुष्पांजलि मैडम। आई वेलकम ऑल द प्रोफेशनल, our Vice Chancellor Sahab to this particular webinar, and I am really grateful that we are discussing about a topic which is of much meaning, to the extent that a cross-linguistic comparison of acquisition of literacy in Hindi and English and the relation to it with working memory actually is my PhD topic. So I am going to present out my understanding in terms of how working memory would be influencing out acquisition of Hindi and English literacy in children. So we start up. Free and compulsory education for all by the Government of India has been a policy, and it has been put forth by the Right to Education Act in 2009, and now it has become the responsibility of the state to identify issues which would be leading to facilitation of acquisition of literacy. So I will be presenting out 12 points based upon which I will be covering my presentation. My first point is literacy is the outgrowth of language and a major cause of school dropouts due to challenges in acquiring literacy, especially a foreign language, English. The second point is, unlike acquiring oral language, which is acquired reflexively, acquiring literacy is a meta skill, a metacognitive skill, which means that we have to consciously learn out the language. Hence, we need explicit reading instruction. It has been found that the most efficient way in preventing and managing reading difficulty is through giving explicit reading instructions, and explicit reading instruction targets conscious processing of language. So conscious processing of language, when it comes to linguistics, conscious processing of linguistics is metalinguistics. So the word meta comes into play, and meta means the conscious manipulation of structures needed for literacy success and to learn the association amongst smaller and larger parts of the graphic code. For example, to be a successful reader, children must eventually understand the relationship between phonemes, syllables and words. These insights can be provided through explicit literacy approaches, and I am cross-referring out all the references. So the word meta says that we require to consciously teach and learn literacy. It's not like acquiring oral languages. The third point is, the part of metalinguistics which has been found to be specifically influencing out literacy is metaphonology, and the term metaphonology is the conscious use of phonological information, that is the sounds of one language at the level of script and how they combine with each other to form words. So the sounds, how they are represented in script and how they combine to form words, and this is required to process out written and oral languages. In metaphonology training, there are two domains on which we focus. One is phonics, the other is phonological processing. So phonics would be the sounds which a particular representation makes, and phonological processing is the capability to identify out smaller chunks. For example, to say fan without fur would be a phonological processing capacity, and how that F sounds would be a phonics. The fourth point which I would like to put down is, unlike oral languages, writing systems can be classified into two basic categories. One would be the logographic systems of writing, another would be the alphasyllabic. The logographic systems of writing, like Japanese and Chinese, are systems where we code out the semantics or the meaning of what we are saying. For example, if you want to say tree, then you use a particular pictograph, and if you want to say forest, you use 2 or 3 trees put down at a particular point. So in the logographic system we put down thoughts or semantics, But in an alpha syllabary system, where we write down what we say, so the sound which is being produced is coded out in an alpha syllabic system. So the writing systems which represent speech sounds at the level of syllables, which are as well the phonemes of a language, would be alpha syllabaries. For example, alpha syllabaries would be all the 22 official languages of India. It's a myth that Dravidian languages are different from the Aryan languages. Indian languages are alpha syllabary in nature. Alpha syllabary systems again can be divided into alphabetic systems and syllabic systems. Alphabetic systems are systems like in English, where the alphabets correspond, rather they claim to correspond, that each alphabet would be corresponding to a particular sound unit which would be known as a phoneme. And there will be a syllabic system where each sound system corresponds to a syllabic unit, which will be a consonant vowel combination. Example in Japanese, kana. Our languages have both the properties of alphabets as well as syllables. That's why they are known as alpha syllabaries. Now again, alphabetic systems are divided into transparent or shallow orthography and opaque or deep orthography. The core meaning is that if you speak out a particular sound and if it directly corresponds to how it is written, it will be a shallow orthography where the spellings would be irregular, which means that, for example, if you say cat, then we know it's in Hindi, Odia, Bengali, any Indian language, it will be composed of two syllables, ka and ta, and we have specific symbols for ka and specific symbol for ta. So that's a transparent example of a transparent orthography as compared to opaque orthographies like English, where the sound C or the alphabet C can actually have at least 6 combinations in different words. So that's an example of a deep or a opaque orthography. The example of how Hindi and English would differ in terms of orthography or writing systems has been put down here. For example, the word cat is there. We can see when it's written in English and when it is written in Hindi. English, the first difference is that it's a linear script. We write it straight like this. But Hindi or any Indian language would be a non-linear script because we would be putting up diacritics all around it. The second difference is that in this particular script, which is English, we have alphabets which are simple geometrical shapes. So they are visually easy to perceive. But here in our script we have syllabics which are represented with complex visual shapes, a bit difficult to process. The third difference would be in English, for example, the alphabet A can actually be represented out phonetically by A, I, R, U, A, and multiple type of presentations. That is one alphabet corresponding to many pronunciations. So that's where this phonics comes into play. We try teaching the child that one alphabet actually can be presented in multiple forms. But the same is not true for the alpha syllabaries or the Indian scripts, where we have alpha syllabaries. For example, ka, it actually has a consonant along with a vowel. So the consonant vowel combination is there. That's why it's a syllable, a CV combination is there. And the vowel and the consonants are separately arranged in the alphabetic scripts, but some consonant can stand alone as syllables as they have a inbuilt vowel. Hence it is known as the ambiguity. So these are a few differences amongst the script. They have their own implications because English is processed at the level of phonemes. We expect the child to know the set of phonemes which correspond to that particular alphabet. The auditory perceptual demands are quite heavy, which means that the moment we hear a particular sound or the moment we hear a particular word, for example, the word bread is given here, to write down the spelling of it or to spell out the spelling of it, in English, a child has to hear the sound at the level of individual phonemes in the word, break up the word to the level of phonemes, which is the highest auditory perceptual capability required as shown in the pyramid as compared to Hindi or any Indian language which needs to be processed at the level of syllables, which is a much lower auditory perceptual capability. So in general, processing the word bread to write down the spelling, I am using the word bread because it is used, it's a Vaideshik Sabd which is there in Hindi and other Indian languages also, adapted from English. So if you have to write down bread, you have to write down actually two syllables, bread and the. But if you have to write down bread in English, you have to hear it at the level of phonemes where you say it will be made up of br, d, and then the word bread comes in. So this way English puts up a much more higher auditory perceptual demand. The fifth point which I would like to say is that language specific differences are evident in the stage of literacy acquisition. Multiple theories have been put down. The most popular is Firth 1985 model, in which for English they say that there are three stages of acquisition: the logographic stage, the stage 1, the alphabetic stage, the stage 2, and the orthographic stage, the stage 3. But if we try comparing out the same model to Indian languages, Vimal Goswami and many other people have found out that syllabic languages do not follow the same pattern. So there is no universality of this particular model. It changes depending upon the script which is there. The sixth point is this differences in script get reflected on the prevalence of specific learning disability, which is very high in English, 10 to 15%, as compared to Indian languages, which is low as 2.5% like in Tamil and Kannada, and in foreign languages like Japanese, Finnish and German. So the prevalence of learning disability, specific learning disability, has become a disability criteria, or it has become a disability in all the 21 disabilities which are prescribed by the Rights of Person with Disability Act 2016. So hence we need to worry about it also, because the prevalence of specific learning disability is also associated with the script. In a recent study in Chennai, they said that the prevalence of learning disability in English medium schools was 16 to 20%, while the prevalence of learning disability was as low as 0.015% in children learning Tamil. But the teacher said that probably there is a lack of awareness, etc., and because of which they are not capable of identifying out learning disability in Tamil speaking children. I have my views which are contrary to this, but still this was the article which was published. The next point is, I am a speech language pathologist. I work with children having auditory disorders and speech language disorders. The association, which is American Speech and Hearing Association, says that as far as children with learning disabilities and literacy acquisition is concerned, there is a definite role of speech language pathologists in terms of preventing out specific learning disability. Although American Speech and Hearing Association and Indian Speech and Hearing Association (ISHA) have recognized it, but it is yet to be reflected out in recent literature and in manuals like the DSM-5. So it is not yet being put into clinical practice. Hence this needs to be known and some awareness is required in this area. The eighth point which I would like to say is that, does such intervention of metaphonology work? fMRI studies 2001-2003 since then have shown that well-timed intervention reverses the course of reading disabilities, and there are subtle changes in the fMRI studies. So before remediation, you can see the stimulation in the occipito-temporal junction as well as in the temporofrontal junction, which is responsible for processing literacy, is quite low. But after remediation, these areas are much more densely activated and much more focused activation can be seen in this area. And studies have shown that metaphonological skills are specifically, if they are specifically explicitly stimulated, the recovery rate of children with learning disabilities who are identified out early is as high as 95%, and this will be 7.16 times cheaper as compared to late intervention. So there is a requirement for early intervention. Early intervention would be possible if we can appreciate out language specific differences which would be leading to these learning disabilities. Hence, it's important to know about it. The ninth point which I would like to emphasize is that Contrary to these research evidences, a lot of what is done in India is dependent upon the Western studies in English. Unfortunate, because we think that teaching methods in English are the solution to any language, and this is reflected in the books. You can see standard 2, standard 3 books where, for example, we break our syllables. For example, when we were children, we were taught out, I don't know, it's like when at least my parents were children, they were taught down language in form of the bara khadi, ka, ka, ke, ki, ku, kau, kan, ka. So we process our language at the level of syllable. Ka, that is ka and a. If we add up another vowel, it will be ka, ka and a. The third would be ki. We don't break it out like ka plus a, the way we do it at phonemic level for English. So this is not required out, and contrary to the research evidences, this is being put to practice into mainstream. Hence, this needs to be looked at, because phonemes are represented in alphabet. Here I am trying to show out how the word butterfly actually can be broken down into syllables like butter and fly, and if it is broken into phonemes, that is one level higher, alphabets are supposed to be representing out phonemes. So it will be ba, a, ta, ta, e, a, r, fa, la, y, something like that. So the child has to actually decode out this entire thing. So that's quite demanding if the words are to be processed at the level of phonemes. Thus, copying out findings of English which are being done will not help the remediation of Bengali. My topic was comparing out Bengali and English. The same is true for Hindi, any Odia, any other Indian language. The 10th point which I would like to say is that the entire process, when we ask a child to write down the spelling of something, or when we ask the child to read out something, banks upon the working memory of the child. So what's working memory? Working memory actually, for example, you are hearing me, what you have to do is that you have to keep a vacant space in your perception where all the information is taken in, coded, it's converted into meaningful chunks, and we make meaning out of it. So working memory is actually a mental workbench where information is encoded into meaningful chunks. The Baddeley and Hitch, the most popular theory, that's how they define it. So here in case of literacy, when we are asking to read and spell, then the grapheme or the unit which is used to code out the utterance, may it be a syllable or a phoneme, for example A or A in Hindi, needs to correspond to its minimal speech unit. So in English, they will have to correspond out each grapheme or alphabet to the corresponding phoneme, but for Indian languages, they have to code out each grapheme, for example, this ka, to the corresponding syllable. This is a regular classroom situation, how demanding it is to have a slot of working memory dedicated towards reading and writing. We are trying to show that here. So here if you see, in a classroom, the child has to ignore the noise, he has to hold his head steady, he has to focus out his eyes on the paper, he has to ignore the feeling of the clothes on his body, he has to hold a static posture the entire body, he has to put his arm properly, and he has to write down. All of these would be requiring out processing, auditory processing, tactile processing, vestibular processing, kinesthetic processing, and if there is any problem in any of these areas, as it happens to children with learning disabilities, children with autism, children with other perceptual disorders, the child will not be in a position to dedicate out that amount of working memory towards literacy. Hence, would be doing some spelling errors, would be doing some reading errors. So that is something which is the challenge in front of a child who is not into the so-called normal category. Many of us could read with the tape recorder on, while many of us could not read it, because some of us like me who could not read out with the tape recorder on was because I could not isolate out the background noise from my working memory. That background noise always interrupted that working memory which was to be dedicated towards reading and writing skills. So I had to put off the tape recorder as compared to many of my classmates who could read out with the tape recorder on. So that's the role of working memory. So hence, if we relate out working memory to literacy, then we can define it like this. Working memory is a limited capacity system of temporarily storing and processing the information required to carry cognitive tasks. The child needs to store the word cat, process the sound units in it, identify and retrieve it from the long-term memory, the grapheme, that is the alphabets of the aksharas, which it is made up of, which make up the first sound. The better is his working memory, the better is the task performed. That is, it's a situation where the teacher says, write down the spelling of cat, or the teacher asks, cat starts with which alphabet or which akshara. These are the different working memory models and theories which have been put up since 1970. The most popular model was the Baddeley and Hitch model, and since then we can see I've come down till the Ronberg et al. Model, which was put forth in 2008 and then in 2013, and this was specifically put down to appreciate out script specific and language specific processing and how working memory would be helping it out. So this is the short representation of Ronberg et al.'s working memory model. So I'll be using the example where the teacher asks cat, write down cat in Hindi and English, and write down specifically the alphabet or akshara with which the word cat starts. The ease of language understanding model is being shown. So this is the ease of language understanding model. A common classroom situation in which the teacher actually asks both the group of students to write down the spelling of cat in Hindi and English. So what are the processing demands? That the moment the child hears it, then hearing always takes up the information to the temporal lobe, and seeing takes the information to the occipital lobe. So in the temporal lobe, the moment the information goes in, then the temporal lobe gets activated. According to the ease of language understanding model, the area which is specifically dedicated towards reading and spelling is the RAMPHO. The RAMPHO is made up of various sulcus and gyrus of the temporal lobe, posterior, inferior, middle and superior. The RAMPHO actually functions like a sieve, and the sieve tries filtering out the word which is said into the component syllables. So the moment the English word cat goes in, it's a single syllable word as compared to the Hindi word cat, which is ka and ta, it's a bisyllabic word. So the moment the syllabic representation matches out the syllabic phonological representation, the processing is very fast and implicit in nature. So implicit and top-down processing happens, the child can easily write down the spelling. But to the contrary, in case the syllables which have been found out by the RAMPHO doesn't match out the syllabic phonological representation, then the explicit top-down processing model picks up, and repeatedly the effort is there to derive out the syllables. Now if the auditory input fails out, the visual input is taken up, may it be analyzing out the shapes of the word, the visual gestural analysis and other contextual cues. So quite a bit of effort takes place if there is a mismatch in the RAMPHO's output and the semantic long-term memory output. So the explicit processing groups takes up, and then finally after effort, it may be correct or it may be wrong, the output comes out. Thus, anything which is opaque and cannot be, a match is not found out, is slower, and identification of syllables is the first step which is there in terms of processing reading and spelling. So easier a language to be processed at the level of syllables, easier it is to write down the spellings as compared to Hindi. English will be much more difficult because we need to process it at the level of phonemes which are opaque in nature. There is no one-to-one correspondence. We all can appreciate, for example, if I ask any of you to write down the spelling of the word Kendujhar, that's my hometown in Odisha, Kendujhar, in English, we can guarantee that people would be having some of the other different types of spellings. But in Hindi, Odia or Bengali, if you write Kendujhar, K-Ndu-Jha-Ra, there will be no error no matter how complex it is, because the graphemes which are there correspond to syllables which are clearly broken down. So this is how the processing in Indian languages would be implicit, faster as compared to English, which requires an explicit processing loop until and unless you remember out everything. If you remember out everything, there are theories like demand and capacity model and other things. your capacity to process out becomes slow because you have to store out so much of information. Thus, these are the multiple combinations which would be there in front of the child to choose from, to write down the instruction, write the first word with which, write the first alphabet with which cat begins. So he usually has to choose between so many combinations, which is a challenge in English literacy. The 11th point would be that if we weigh out the working memory demands, this Bengali and English comparison, then we have 44 consonants, 11 vowels and 33 aksharas, which represent 35 phonemes. So if you learn 500 combinations, which means ka, ka, ke, ki, ku, kau, kanka, and the juktakshars, which are there, then spelling errors in Bangla would be minimal, except for the places where representations are not clear. For example, choti ikar, badi ikar. In Sanskrit, they represent length, but in Hindi, Bengali, Odia, Kannada, Tamil, we don't have length representation. So we have to remember by rote whether it is a choti ikar or a badi ikar, choti ukar or a badi ukar. So spelling errors would be in that. But you can code out any spelling with good amount of accuracy, and that can be read out well in Bengali or any Indian languages because of this phoneme-grapheme correspondence. In English, what happens? We have 26 letters, very easy geometrical shapes, easy to learn out, but they represent 40 phonemes. And these 40 basic sounds have more than 200 to 1120 ways of spelling them. So pronunciations are not rule governed. You have to depend upon phonics, you have to depend upon learning out rhymes, you have to depend upon short-term memory skills. Somebody who has good working memory would be having good spellings as compared to somebody who has poor working memory or some type of problem like specific learning disability, attention deficit disorders or auditory perception disorders. The 12th point is that teaching methods would differ because of the differences in working memory demands. We have to follow out the same old Barakhadi method which is there for our languages. Our languages are so brilliantly arranged. Like if you see, the entire Varnamala is arranged like vowels first, consonant then. Then the consonants are arranged based upon the place of articulation. Ka, cha, ta, ta, pa. Posterior to anterior. And if this way if you see, then they are arranged based upon voiced and voiceless. Like ka, kha, voiceless, and the counterparts ga, gha are voiced. And then the last part is nasal. Nga, nya, na, na, ma. So ka would be maximally oral, na would be maximally nasal. So this is something which was done by Panini. Imagine 2000 years ago, identifying out difference between a voiced sound and a voiceless, that is the difference between ka and ga, would be actually 20 milliseconds. So now we are identifying it with the help of machines by voicing onsets, but I don't know how Panini identified it, but they have done it this way. And a very absolutely wonderful transparent script is there in front of us. As compared to English here, you see, we teach the word alphabet. A, the taught pronunciation is A in class. But actually it occurs in so many forms. In apple it is different, in table it is different, in watch it is different, in father it is different, in any it is different, in water it is different, in banana different, in village different. There are other grain sizes in which it occurs, like I, ar, ar. So to appropriately spell out spelling A, these are the things which the child has to learn. But for our languages, may it be Hindi, English, Hindi, Bengali, Odia, any language, it would be a set of Barakhadi and combinations. Maximum 500. If the child learns it out, then for the entire life you will be free of spelling errors to a great extent, except for ikar, ukar, which do not have a corresponding representation. I hope I could convey out my topic, differences in English and Hindi processing from the working memory perspective. I thank all of you for listening. Thanks.